I would like to call this evening's regular council meeting to order, please. And as we begin today, I wish to acknowledge a staff member, and that is Ms. Carolyn Mushada. Carolyn is now officially our corporate officer, and so we'd like to welcome and thank you for all the expertise that you've brought into us so far, and glad to have you on board here at the district. So, Council, as you turn to this evening's agenda, I would like to make an amendment, and that is to remove 11.1, the 10 minutes response time, and I would like that item to actually go to a committee of the whole because it would allow for broader discussion of that item. It's quite important, and I just think it allows for more public input and more discussion amongst Council. But otherwise, I would like to have the agenda approved with that change. As amended. Seconded. Moved by Councillor Casper and seconded by Councillor Pearson. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And then, qu'est-ce que c'est? Okay, so, hold on a second. Was there another item? It's the public hearing. Was there, that needs to shift up to where exactly? Okay. Following adoption of the minutes, because we have to have the public hearings as close to 7 o'clock as possible. So the second change then to propose is that items 9.1 and 9.2 to go immediately following adoption of the minutes. And then we already have, just a second, 12.1 is good. And then, so with that, and also to include the additional supplementary information that was sent to us for the delegation and also for one of the public hearings, there's correspondence in this package. So that'll be the second motion then, is to move those items and to accept these materials. So that was moved by Councillor Casper and seconded by Councillor Pearson. Okay. All those in favor of that? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay. I think I got it here. So looking at the meeting minutes, please. We have minutes from January the 15th and looking for that the minutes be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Casper and seconded by Councillor Berger. Are there any questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, so that brings us to 9.1 then, our first public hearing, and this is for Bylaw 688, zoning amendment bylaw for 2298 Phillips Road, and I will turn this over to staff, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. The application before you tonight is to rezone 2298 Phillips Road from rural RU2 to medium lot residential R2 to allow for a future subdivision to create an estimated 15 lots. The applicant has also applied to include the property into the sewer specified area. The minimum lot size in the R2 zone is 600 square meters. The applicant has prepared a sketch plan of a proposed lot configuration for 15 strata lots. There are steep slopes that lead down to Demamuel Creek on the property, so a geotechnical report will be required at time of development permit, as well as a riparian areas assessment report for Demamuel Creek will also be required. In efforts to ensure that there is adequate parking on site, the applicant will be providing more than what is required by the zoning bylaw by constructing an additional 13 parking spaces along the Strata Road. When submitting building permit plans for future lots, the applicant has also agreed that the parking space for the secondary suite will be designed to be independently accessible. Staff would like to note that some of the proposed lot sizes are showing to be smaller than 600 square meters, and this is because the developer has proposed a strata development, and under the Strata Property Act can utilize strata lot averaging. This means that an approving officer may approve a strata plan containing lots that are less than the minimum parcel size allowed in the zoning bylaw, so long as the total area of land in the strata plan, when divided by the number of lots being created, equals the minimum lot size or greater. The applicant has agreed to dedicate the area highlighted in yellow as parkland after discussion with CRD Parks, CPark, and District Parks and Planning staff. Parkland dedication was recommended for purposes of protecting the environmental sensitivities around the Demamiel watershed and to also allow opportunities for dialogue to occur on future potential trail linkages to surrounding park green space and recreation areas. This map shows the existing surrounding parks, recreation areas, location of nearby schools and neighborhoods. The area in orange is the proposed park dedication. Abutting the northern property line is a 5-meter strip of park called the Demamiel Creek Phillips Connector, and this is creating a buffer between the subject property and the Sun River Estates development. To meet the policies in the official community plan, staff recommend that the owner enter into covenants with the district prior to final adoption of the rezoning to secure the following: additional parking spaces within the development and design standards for suite parking, a $5,000 cash contribution to Sooke's Affordable Housing Reserve Fund, a geotechnical report, a riparian areas assessment, and parkland dedication. The applicant has no concerns with the proposed covenant requirements. Staff did receive one letter from an adjacent neighbor. It is a letter of support, but they did have some comments in regards to the type of development there and possible trail linkages as well. So the applicant is here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a question for staff, and it sort of is touched on in the letter that we received, but also in previous dialogue, we've talked about some sort of a pedestrian bridge that would be used to connect over to the schools. Would that go on the parkland dedication that is proposed, or where has that been contemplated for in the past?
Thank you, Your Worship. The discussions with regards to the Demamiel Trail, if I can use that vernacular, hasn't been established. We have put out a tender for someone to look at the whole area and where the trail might be. And we haven't begun any kind of dialogue because we're going to be entering into dialogue with the public at large with regards to where the crossing might be of the Demamiel Creek. And the park dedication, as shown on this plan, was not to be confused with that public process. This is just a public park dedication that could, through public input process and through the study of the area as a whole, could lead to a portion or the trail itself, but in no way was meant to be taken as the finality of that trail in any form or fashion.
Okay, so the actual location of that linkage is still to be determined.
That is correct.
It's in this vicinity
it's
somewhere.
to be determined.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Questions for staff. Councillor Berger, please.
Yes, thank you. Just one quick question through you to Mr. Howitt or to, I'm not sure, Ms. Johnson. On page 19 of the public hearing package, it does show on the other side of common property, it does show park and it shows that strip. I'm assuming that's the same park dedication that the mayor was just speaking to, or is that park trail that's sort of proposed on the conceptual lot configuration, is that already in existence through Sun River?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Councillor Berger. That park was dedicated in a previous subdivision plan and works into another area of the park as shown in the dark blue up top.
Other questions from members of council? Okay, so we'll head straight into the public hearing then, and before we do so, there's just a statement that I need to read. This public hearing is being held pursuant to the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that are the subject of this hearing. Copies of written submissions received to date are available. It is important that all who speak at this hearing restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaw, and it is my responsibility as chair of the hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. For those of you who wish to speak at the appropriate time, please commence your address to council by clearly stating your name and home address. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. Submissions must be received before or during the public hearing in order to be considered by council. Members of council may, if they so wish, ask questions of you following your presentation or submission. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Everyone who deems his or her interest in property to be affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views known. Please note that this hearing forms part of tonight's regular council meeting and as such is being video recorded. Videos and their contents, including any personal information disclosed during the public hearing, will be posted on the district website. So on that note, I'd like to welcome anyone forward to speak on 2298 Phillips Road. Sir, sorry, if I could please ask you to come forward, and if you could just turn on the microphone. It's the button just on the base of the actual... There you are. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Your Worship. My name is Glenn Harrison. My address is 2330 DeMamio Place in Sun River Estates. My question in this matter is that from what I see with the proposed plan is that we're going to have a road right in the back of us. I know there's a 5-meter buffer, but 5 meters is 15 feet. And we also have a road in front of us. Given the elevation of this property behind us, it would seem that the lots in the proposed area are going to be below road grade. Now, I'd like to know if the road itself is going to be dug down so the lots will be level with the road, and there'll be a wall or a buffer zone that we can count on that we're not having traffic noise in our backyard. So will we be seeing cars going by in our backyard, or is there going to be a dig down? I guess if the road's going to be level with the properties in question, because it's the elevation change from the properties to our area is quite significant.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can I get an answer from staff, if there's comment, please, on what was raised by our member of the public?
Thank you, Your Worship. The district has not received any engineering with regards to the proposed road or its vertical alignment, but the applicant is here tonight, and I would ask him to come forward and respond to the question if he can.
Okay, perhaps what we'll do, sir, or to the applicant, is we can just see if there's other members of the public that come forward, and then, if you don't mind just summarizing at the end, we can just see how that goes? Okay. So I'd like to welcome other members of the public forward on this bylaw, please.
As prodded by my wife, she would like to know if the tree line will remain in effect between the houses and the new development.
Okay, we'll get some feedback on that as well, sir. Thank you. Okay, if I may call for a second time on this matter. Okay, I'd like to welcome the applicant forward, please.
Picked a better time to wreck my heel. Thank you. Your Worship, councillors, thank you for this opportunity. My name's John Kelly. I'm the proponent in this application, and to answer specifically on the questions, just as Mr. Howard had said, we don't have the engineering completed at this time. but the elevation of this, the back of the lots from Sun River are significantly higher than where this road is going to end up. The land slopes towards where the proposed road is as it goes along. There's no circumstances under which we're going to build the road up to make it level. We're going to bring it down lower, which gives us better building envelopes on the subdivision which is created. So I can't give specifics about what that elevation is going to be, but it's going to be quite significant. I would be surprised unless at some points where they walked out to their backyard and looked over their fence that they're going to see a car. But I can't, I don't know the exact elevations of where that's going to be. As far as the tree line between the houses, there's the 5-meter strip, which is the park, which obviously we can't touch anything in there. We are going to be building the road somewhat close to where the cut goes up there now, but there will be the loss of some trees. There's no question about it, which right now would be trees that would be looked through at their backyard. There will be some of them that are going to have to be removed without question. While I'm here, if I can just say a couple of things. To the letter that was sent in today, we did look at this in the idea of would it be better off as a multifamily type of development. The zoning which you're progressive with, which allows the homes with the suites in them, actually provides as many units as possibly a townhouse development or something would, in what I think is a much nicer setting. They're decent-sized lots. They're homes that the idea of the suites, especially with the new stress tests for people getting mortgages, these are legal suites. They can make use of that income with the banks. This will be an affordable housing option. The idea of this, if you work it backwards, it's always hard to get exactly what is affordable, but the affordability of these is if you take an average income from Sooke, in the Sooke area, which I believe came out at about $74,000, think of it in a family sense, with that, assuming that the applicant doesn't have any other debts or anything else, and they've saved the down payment, they could in fact afford one of these homes with the income from a suite. So, and if you have any questions, so.
Okay. Is there anything further, Mr. Keller?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. For anything from council to the applicant at this point? No. Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. Is there any other members of the public that would like to speak on 2298 Phillips Road? So I'm calling for a third and last time. No? Okay, seeing none, I'll officially close the public hearing and I'll turn this back to council. Is there any further comment, questions? Someone like to move third reading? Councillor Casper?
Even though I'm supposed
The
to
microphone.
even though I'm supposed
Sorry, it's
to
still not on. Sorry.
at previous council meeting, I'll move third reading.
That's third reading moved by Councillor Casper and seconded by Councillor Pearson. Okay. Discussion on third reading? Councillor Pearson?
Yes, I'm generally in favor with the applicant because it is contiguous to a large subdivision, and I think good steps have been taken to give us a green zone up against the Demaniel Creek, as well as the 5 meters on the other side. And the parking, which is always a contentious issue, sounds to be taken care of and considered by the applicant. So I'll be supporting the application.
Anything else? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question then. All those in favor of third reading? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. Okay, and thank you to those that attended and who wrote in on this tonight. As it goes along, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our staff. Okay, so moving on to 9.2, we have bylaw number 689, zoning amendment bylaw 600-50 for 3018 Manzer Road. And I'd like to turn this one over to staff, please.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of Council. This evening we are here for a public hearing for the rezoning of 3018 Manzer Road. This application seeks to rezone the RU4 rural residential zone to RU2. It's a 1.8 hectare property located outside the sewer specified area and not connected to CRD water. The proposed new zone would permit the applicant to build another house on the property for a family member while retaining their existing B&B operation. The little overview of the site, located at the far end of Manzer Road, bordered by Vetch Creek and the Sooke Harbor to the south, and other residential properties to the west. It's a waterfront lot comprised of moss and forest and bedrock intermittent patches that help to buffer the Galloping Goose Trail along its northern edge at the rear of the property. A couple of photos. The surrounding land uses are, for the most part, RU4, so rural properties. And under the proposed RU2 zone, the property may have up to 3 single-family dwellings or 1 duplex. The minimum lot size for subdivision purposes is 4 hectares, and so in this case is not possible. Should this application be successful, the property will permit the 3 single-family dwellings, and each may also have 1 small suite for a total of 6 dwelling units. Additional structures, such as workshops, etc., are also permitted, up to a maximum lot coverage of 35% in the RU2 zone. This property has considerable room to accommodate this additional residential and tourist parking with minimal impact to the surrounding neighborhood. It's sited next to the Galloping Goose Trail, and the property does provide great pedestrian and cycling opportunities for both residents and visitors to the site. The key goals of the rural residential designation include maintaining the existing character of large lots and agricultural use that are associated with rural living opportunities, ensuring future and existing residential development minimizes the impact on municipal infrastructure, allowing sustainable rural development such as farming and agritourism, and to protect and maintain the natural environment. So this application is supportable under the official community plan as it does meet the goals and objectives listed above. The applicant has considered the affordable housing policy, and should this rezoning be approved, affordable housing policy will be addressed because it is creating an opportunity for a family member to have a lot, or a house, I should say, on site. And there's a little summary of the application, septic well size, and just to build an additional unit. So in light of the rural location of the property, its low impact on the surrounding neighborhood, municipal infrastructure, and environment, we are supportive. By rezoning this parcel, the applicant will be able to realize their business plans and provide a home for a family member in the future, keeping the family together and aging in place. Sorry. So, and if you would like, I believe the applicant is here this evening if you have any questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Rice. Are there any questions from members of council? Okay. So we'll head straight into the public hearing then. I get to read my statement to you again. This public hearing is being held pursuant to the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that are the subject of this hearing. Copies of written submissions received to date are available, but we haven't received any. It is important that all who speak at this hearing restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaw, and it is my responsibility as chair of this hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. For those of you who wish to speak at the appropriate time, please commence your address to council by clearly stating your name and home address. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaws. Submissions must be received before or during the public hearing in order to be considered by council. Members of council may, if they so wish, ask questions of you following your presentation or submission. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Everyone who deems his or her interest in property to be affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this hearing. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views known. Please note that this hearing forms part of tonight's regular council meeting and as such is being video recorded. Videos and their contents, including any personal information disclosed during the public hearing, will be posted on the district's website. So on that note, I'd like to welcome anyone forward for 3018 Manzer Road, please. Anyone? Okay, we call for a second time for any members of the public. 3018 Manzer Road. Bylaw 689, zoning amendment bylaw 600-50. And a third and final time for any public submissions. Okay, so on that note, we'll consider the public hearing closed. Thank you, I guess. And turn back to council, please. Any further questions? Councillor Pearson.
I'll move the
microphone.
Sorry, I'll make the motion that we give third reading.
Okay, third reading is moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Berger. Question, Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. Through you to staff, I'm just looking at our affordable housing policy online, and with the creation of one home, how would that, like, what would be the normal impact? You said that because you touched on a little bit, but you didn't give me enough clarity as to whether the affordable housing policy should be enacted with one home or shouldn't be, or what's the standard? I was trying to find it before we got to where we are, but nobody commented.
Through your worship to Councillor Berger. So from the way, I suppose it's about interpretation, but the way the policy is drafted, it does allow, it's up to the applicant to choose what format they want to provide for affordable housing. And in this instance, my understanding is that just the creation of another home allows that other family member a place that's affordable for them to reside.
Any follow-up, Councillor Berger? Okay.
Thank you.
I'll come back to you. Councillor Pearson, did you have a question?
Nope.
Okay, your microphone's on. Okay. Just wait while Councillor Berger reads.
That's fine.
You're
Thank
good?
you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we have moved and seconded that. Is there anything final from members of council? Seeing none, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so going back in the agenda then to item 7, we'll go to our delegations. We have 2 this evening. The first one is from the Greater Victoria Green Team. I'd like to welcome you forward, please. Thank you for attending. We do have 5 minutes per delegation allocated, and I know that you also sent us a lot of materials, so thank you for providing those in advance. And staff have the timer on, so I'll turn the floor over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to Mayor and Council for having me here today. My name's Amanda, and I am the Program Manager of the Greater Victoria Green Team. So this short presentation is going to be a little bit of background for you and what we've done in Sooke and our proposal to continue to collaborate and work together. So the Greater Victoria Green Team, we're a regional-wide environmental volunteer program that works to empower the community to care for nature. So we recruit volunteers and we collaborate with municipal parks and stewardship projects to bring more volunteer resources to parks, to educate volunteers, and to get more people outside connected to nature. Our program is part of Green Teams of Canada charity, which was formed in 2014. And under this charity, there's our Green Team here and the Lower Mainland Green Team. A few of the activities that we do include invasive plant removals. This is a picture of us at Ed McGregor Park. We clean up the beach, and we engage our volunteers in different types of activities, planting native species, building fences, trail building. We're quite a unique and innovative program, so we really emphasize the volunteer enjoyment. We have, we're an accessible, easy program to sign up with. We have 60 activities per year right across the region. We are accessible for different ages, different abilities, a lot of volunteers who just arrived to Victoria wanting to get to know their city, and we have a great youth-focused educational weekday program. So here we are at Whiff and Spitz, the class. Our volunteer model, although we find it simple, it's quite effective, and it is an award-winning way to engage volunteers. So we've won a number of awards. And some of the impacts that we've had, this is us again at Ed McGregor. So you've seen we've grown in a short time to over 2,000 volunteers. We've engaged 4,500 people. We've run 210 activities, planted thousands of native plants. And we've been in the news quite a bit, so we're really highlighting the importance of stewardship. So we contact the media before and after each of our activity. Specifically in Sooke, we've had 7 activities. We've engaged over 100 volunteers, including 41 youth. We've introduced about 50% of the volunteers to the sites that they have never visited. And so we're really trying to bring people out to these places to learn about the parks in their backyard or a neighboring municipality. And we've collaborated with groups including the Wanda Fuca Community Trails Society. So our proposal, I have sat down and discussed this with Laura Hopper, and she's in favor of this initiative, and so she recommended me come here to speak to you about this. And we're approaching other municipalities that we've worked in with this formalized partnership so that we can continue to offer this service ongoing and to fill a niche. And we've proven that our program has been quite effective. We have 3 years under our belt. And to move ahead, this is a new initiative where we would take a collaboration and create a formalized partnership where part of the costs are covered by the municipality, and we would raise half the cost or part of the cost. And we have a funder who would like to match the funds with these formalized partnerships. So the Gosling Foundation is in favor of us moving forward with this. So we have a couple of municipalities that have signed up. And I have included the proposal with the package that I sent you. So here's just a couple of some feedback that we've received. We have, it's actually more now, it's 9 municipalities in Metro Vancouver and Greater Victoria that have signed up for this, and they've really had some great feedback for this partnership. So this is just a couple cost effective, and it's municipalities are able to do more, have more reach, engage more of their community. And there's quite a number of benefits. I only have 30 seconds, so this goes through, it's really like engaging more people, educating more people. It's additional capacity, especially around invasive plant management. It's quite a big job we have at hand, so getting more people involved. And it really creates more of a environmental ethic. When people get outside, get their hands dirty, connect to their local parks, we find that people are more willing to take care of these places. So let's get our hands dirty together, and I thank you for your time. 4 seconds left.
Well done. Thank you very much for the presentation and for the materials. So, and yes, I understand that the contract proposal was submitted. In terms of the cost, so what fees are you looking for the district to be contributing to annually?
We've broken down the cost per activity, and
Okay.
so that includes, I provided you like all the time, the outreach, the pre-activity, during, and post. It's quite extensive HR, but it would also include our volunteer insurance. We have $5 million in volunteer insurance. Today I got District of Sooke named on the insurance, kind of ahead of the game, but and all of the costs, and then split down. North Saanich is the first municipality that actually, we proposed having them cover half, but they're actually covering a little bit more than half per activity. So that's sort of, but right now it's the proposals for half the cost, and then the funder, in this case, Gosling Foundation, would cover the half. Yeah.
Okay.
And we can provide more of a budget, our yearly budget that breaks down the cost even more in detail as well, if that's something.
Okay. Other questions from members of council or comments? Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. Through you, back to Ms. Evans. I don't see, I was looking online with what was on our website as well as in this package. I don't see any dollar amounts. It's just per hours.
So the cost per activity is $2,000, and then it would be $1,000 for covering. So that's the cost of each activity that we run.
So $3,000 per cleanup?
$2,000. Is that?
Oh, sorry, you said $2,000, then another $1,000.
No, just $2,000, and then our proposal for municipalities would be for them to cover half the cost, and that would include 15 to 25 volunteers is basically our average turnout, and then all the work that goes into running our activities. Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, I'm again through the mayor back to you, just for my own clarification, and this is clear as mud for me.
Oh, for sure.
It's $2,000 per.
That's
activity.
the cost from us. So that's and then what we propose to our collaborators, not just municipalities but other collaborators, but then be covering half the cost, and we would be raising the remaining cost. Yeah.
Right.
So I think it's one of the first pages I sent you. It's the proposal.
Yeah, I read through and I didn't see a dollar amount.
Oh, okay.
Page, I actually just flipped to it, page 23 in the proposal part. So it's about $2,000, and then seven, I guess if there are 7 activities a year, then that would be a total of $14,000, and then our split would be $7,000.
Right.
Yeah, and then me and Laura talked about the number of the activities per year, and so that would be decided on by park staff, and the location where we would be working would be decided on in collaboration with the stewardship groups and park staff.
So that will, thank you so much. So then my final comment is, I thank you for your proposal and all the hard work that you do. You sort of hit the nail on the head for me when you said our park staff. So we currently do now have our own parks department that does whiff and spit cleanup, that does all of our sort of parks cleanups that are, on staff now.
Yeah, that's great.
So while I think this is wonderful, I see it as we already have our own in-house parks department.
And we've touched on that, and I can include some of the question and answers. We have a couple pages that we've put together, and what makes our program an additional building capacity is that we're separate from what park staff do, and we work alongside park staff, but the level of our volunteer program and the fact that we've won awards and engaged, we've had the impacts that we've had in Sooke have been tremendous, alongside Laura, like the park staff who are there, and so they've recognized how much more we bring to Sooke Parks, and in every other municipality we do work with volunteer coordinators, park staff, and we don't do something on our own. Our goal, and the reason why Green Teams was started, is because there's a missing type of volunteer that's often not part of stewardship, and it's the volunteers that we've been tapping into. So our goal is to really empower the community, get people of different ages and abilities outside to take care of park spaces and to really boost the capacity of, the Juan de Fuca Community Trail Society. And I can provide letters of support from groups like the ones in Sooke that we've worked with that highlight how much we've been able to bring forward. So, and I have sat down because I know park staff. We want to have support from park staff, so that's why I have sat down with Laura Hopper, and she's fully behind this, and she did. So that's, she sees the merit in what we've been able to provide. So
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Evans. What we could do then is ask staff to bring forward a report just outlining what they suggest would be the number of activities, our costs, and then I would like their comment on the contract proposal to see if that's something where we could enter into. So that's an option for council to consider. Go over to Councillor Casper, please, then Pearson.
Yes, thank you. Through you to our Director of Finance. Just a question. So would this proposal be more akin to an application under our community grant program for a specific project or numbers of specific projects?
Through your worship to Councillor Casper. We could do it that way, although the community grant application's over for this year. Or we could see if it fits into the Parks Department Parks Enhancement Program budget within the existing budget. So.
And can I make a comment?
That's fine.
After?
Sorry, we're with council now. You're good, Councillor Casper. Councillor Pearson?
My question was similar to Councillor Casper. So I think through the chair to Director of Finances, this would fit into our community space enhancement or public space enhancement?
Through your worship. That's correct. Yeah, the account that's in our capital budget usually for park enhancement program, and it would try to fit it within that existing budget.
Okay. So through the chair to thank you for your presentation. Sorry, I didn't say that first. So how do you go about selecting projects? So I see lots of things have worked here, and so when two questions. So how do you select a project, and then how do you, because you said you've got 800 square meters of reclaimed, I think is what it said, something around that. I can't remember.
Of habitat restored.
Yeah. So how do you measure that at the other end?
So we don't select the parks that we work in. We have 50 different collaborators across the CRD, municipal, provincial, federal parks, organizations, conservancies, land trusts. And essentially we're the community engagement specialists helping bring people to projects that are existing. So when we connect with the collaborator, they have the project set up. So in terms of in Sooke, it's been we were directed to contact the Juan de Fuca Community Trail Society. They were in Whiffs and Spit. We set up a date, and then we brought in, there's a class that came out one of the days, and then our regular community volunteers on the weekend. And so they have that set up, the site, the activity, what we're going to do, and then we essentially bring. So it's a collaboration. And then with measuring impacts at the end of each activity, we take before and after pictures. So before we work, after, and I do have restoration degree, so I know how to measure the area of restored land in collaboration with the steward. So we do it together. We have measuring tape. We do the cubic meters of the invasive pile. And then, that's some of the measurements. The number of plants planted, number of trees saved.
Follow-up?
So thank you for that answer. And, okay, so there's another, are you familiar with an organization called Broom Busters, on Vancouver Island? So do you collaborate with other like or similar organizations?
Yeah, we collaborate, like in the Sooke area, it's with the Land Conservancy and the Habitat Acquisition Trust. Those are two groups that we've collaborated locally as well as all over. Broom Busters, they're more up island, but our plan is to move up island with the green team. So although we only have 2 green teams right now, in the next 5 or So years we're going to have multiple green teams across BC and then across Canada is the hope. So we are planning on collaborating more with broombusters who work a little bit north of the CRD.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Casper.
Yes, through you. I just have a similar question along the lines of Councillor Berger, and that is, so what is the district actually paying for? What would the $1,000 is $2,000 per project? So what would the district's $1,000 assist in paying? I noted that the things that it's hands-on for me is I think it's on page 1, and it talks about tools, gloves, communication, transportation of supplies, and volunteer insurance.
Yeah, do you have the page that has the pie chart?
Yeah, I
So
saw
it breaks up the costs that way. And then out of the HR, which is quite a big of like the largest cost because of like with volunteer management, it blows my mind is how much time it takes to get 20 people out. Like it's a lot of time goes into outreach, and then the day of, it's about an 8 to 10 hour day, and then the reporting and all of that. And then so we've broken that up. The HR up even further to 15 minutes, like 15 minutes creating the event on our database, to be as accountable and transparent with all of the parts to our program, so that, and I can supply like our year budget as well on top of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so just to move forward then, so this could fit then in the park enhancement and then the number of activities based on what staff feel would be appropriate. So in which case then is there, to move forward on this, perhaps then a more appropriate report back to council would be that, hey, these 6 or 10 activities have been determined for 2018, when they might be. The budget is already set with the budget, and then if there's an agreement or contract that needs to come back to council, then maybe that would be the fit. That I'm sort of seeing that there would be support. It's all fitting within our existing budget, and then maybe by it coming forward to council, then we sort of understand what's going on, and we have that PR, that public awareness piece as well. Should we be available to roll up get our hands dirty too, even? Yes, Councillor Casper.
Yeah, I just want us to at least make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed in regard to, I'm assuming that 70% of the total cost would be applied to paying somebody to do all the supervision, and what impact that would have within our collective agreement and other matters.
Okay.
Because I think that's something that we haven't really talked about, because it may or may not have an impact, because it could be viewed as contracting the services, and somebody could say, well, they're taking other people's work away. So, we just have to, be on the side of caution here,
Okay.
if I may.
So would you like a report to come to council prior, obviously prior to anything happening, but it could address those concerns raised, the activities, the budget, where it all fits, and then we would see the agreement and any, and just have our staff look at the proposal before we sign off or enter into something.
The screen is turned off, so I don't know if there actually is a motion or been typed
No,
out. So
there isn't one, so I'm just looking to see.
So I would move what you just said.
Okay.
How's that?
So that is that staff report back to council with a list of activities, contracts, address any concern, unionized or insurance liability, whatever, and such to fit within the park enhancement budget. Something to that effect? Good. That's moved by Councillor Casper. You got that? Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Pearson. Mr. Howitt, did you have a comment or no?
I did, but you answered it, Your Worship. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know what that is, but it's good. All right. Okay. Any further discussion then? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to seeing you about the community later on this year.
Do let me know if you need any other information.
Will
Yeah,
do.
thank
Our
you.
staff will be in touch with you. Thank you. And is Ms. Laura Hooper, by the way? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. That's great, Council. So moving on to our second delegation this evening, we have the Sooke Economic Development Group, and I'd like to welcome Mr. Jeremy Wilson and Mr. David Evans forward. And gentlemen, there is 5 minutes on the timer.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship and Council and staff. Appreciate the invitation. We received an invitation to come tonight, so we accepted. I'm going to speak on behalf of our group, so I'll be using the term we, and most of our group is here. We recognize all of your good commitment, so we want to tell you a little bit about ours. Essentially, we're all here for Sooke, and we've got some ideas that we think we can make this place a little better. We've all been longtime residents, so as you mentioned, we are the Sooke Economic Development Group. That is what we have coined ourselves. We've been meeting for about a year now. Sometimes every second week, sometimes every month. We have been about 6 of us. Local business people, all longtime business people, different backgrounds, different skill sets. We come together and we brainstorm ideas to what we think can, from our histories, we think we could bring to Sooke. So essentially, who are we? I'm Jeremy Wilson, as you guys heard. I was born and raised here. My family started a business here in 1940. My parents built a house here in 75. I am the current owner and operator of the 17 Mile Pub and also the builder and founder of Adrenaline Zipline Tours, which I'm sure all of you guys have done. Thank you for coming up. And I am also just shy of 17 years active with the Victoria Fire Department, and I was almost 4 years with the fellows over here at Sooke as a volunteer. So I'm one member. Other members on our team is we've got David Evans. I think all fairly familiar faces too. You guys will notice. We've got David Evans here, the Stick in the Mud. We have Doug Wittich, who's not here tonight, of Wittich Environmental Services. Scott Taylor of Stickleback, Rush Adventures, West Coast Adventure College. Randy Clarkson of West Coast Design. Wolfgang Richter, who you may not know, he's an expert that we brought in on outdoor recreation, tourism, and film. And we've also got a new person on our EDG who we joined is Megan Math, who I think some of you also know. She's helping us with admin assistance and also bringing in some fresh energy, and she's been a long-time Sooke resident as well. So we're here as requested. You guys, just watching my time here, as requested that we exist. We're looking forward to the future of Sooke, and we are looking forward to some exciting items. So what we've done is we've identified what do we think we need here in Sooke? So the first thing we thought was we can't get here. You guys have all heard it in the news. We coined, or actually Dave, I'll give Dave credit, hashtag divided by 14. That was our campaign. We pushed it through media, social media. We made phone calls. We got on the phone with Horgan. We got on the phone with Todd Stone. We got on the phone with Highways, with BC Transit. It didn't stop. We just kept going. And that was the first thing we identified. And so we also have a series of other items on task, but we figure if we don't have a good road, we don't have a road that's lit, we don't have bus stops, people can't get here. So let's focus on that one. We did. We've been focused on it for a year, as well as many other levels have been focusing on it. Well, guess what? John Horgan phoned us, and the day before the announcement said, hey guys, congratulations. I just want to give you a heads up. We're putting $10 million into the pot. It's not as much as I want to, but we're pulling it out of this budget, and we're going to work hard for the next couple of years to get some more money. We call that a win. We're not taking full credit by any stretch, but we definitely were on the phone, and the fact that John called us directly and told us before the public, we took that, and he called us the EDG of Sooke. So I took that as a feather in my cap, or our cap. Sorry, guys. So that's what we first identified, and then we've got a series of other things. I don't feel like we need to get into those. What is our ask here? Our ask is the fact that we think that staff, whoever's attributed to the economic development in Sooke, should have the right to come hang out with us now and again. So we're asking that whoever that rep is, maybe can come work with us. And what we say is it's not just our ideas. You guys are going to have ideas. We think that we can help council. We feel like we can help CERTA. Both Scott and I are tourism. We've worked with CERTA in the past. We can help chamber. We're just a group of volunteers that have some great backgrounds, and we think that Sooke can benefit. So it's not a big ask. We just want a staff member sitting here. We're not asking for funds. It's all our own volunteers for now. And we've got more ideas, and we're happy to share them with you all. If I'm going to give you number 2 on our list, it is tourism. We're underused greatly in Sooke. I look across at Tofino, they're getting a larger chunk of money to fix the section of road by Kennedy Road. I want that road out here. So we have lots of potential in Sooke for tourism, and we have not even tapped into it. I'm sure you guys all know that. So that's number 2 on our list, and we do have number 3 and number 4 and number 5. But we are going to work on them one at a time. Like I said, we're just squeaky wheels with great backgrounds, a diversity of backgrounds, and so that's our ask. So we're here for Sooke. I think it's a positive ask. Nothing more than we're just letting you know we're sitting down having good conversations, stimulate some great ideas, and if staff can come, whoever your designated is, then that'd be great. And then they report back and tell you all the cool things we're talking about.
That's great. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson and Evans and Taylor and Parkston and everyone else that you're a part of. I've had the opportunity. You've come and met with me in my office, and I've met down at the Stick as well. So I certainly appreciate the exchange and also the enthusiasm and the support that you've given to council. That means a great deal to us. Councillor Berger, you have your hand up here.
Yes, thank you. Part of our reason of inviting you is because we wanted to get to know what your group was doing. We heard tons of positive energy out in the community that this group had formed, and we wanted to sort of lend a hand in any way we could about being that economic person to come back to council. Unfortunately, we don't have that designated staff member. We don't have anybody designated. Last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, I was appointed to serve and be on the Economic Development Region Board that they did out of Victoria. Most municipalities joined, but we felt in Sooke we would be overlooked. And so as this table, we decided not to be a part of Victoria's, and we would stay in hopes that something would form here in Sooke, and then I would be super excited to come and join any group or liaison any way I can. So part of your ask is possibly you could get me if you'd like someone to come back to council and bring back any reports that you guys have or any really interesting things you have going on. I would be absolutely more than happy to attend any meetings that you guys have. So as far as economic development, we don't have a paid staff member, but we do have me who's appointed to an economic development group that of course no longer exists. So I would be happy to come to any of your meetings.
Excellent.
So what I would like to do is, because we did have that liaison in the past, it was for an organization that we're not a part of, is that perhaps council could consider formally appointing Councillor Berger as our economic development liaison. Moved by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Pearson. So, and I say liaison not necessarily to one particular group, but there may be other interests that may come out. Periodically, we get invites to the Greater Victoria Film Commission events, and if you're available, you may find that to be of interest to attend, or just sort of things as they come up. Are you comfortable with this? We've just made this motion, and I haven't asked you about it.
Yes, I'm comfortable, but I also wanted to ensure your group that I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I really just want to, I'm super excited about what you guys have been doing, and I would love to be a part of it and bring back whatever you'd like me to bring back to this table. So I don't need to be at all of your meetings if you don't want me there. I just make myself available to your group.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think, just the acknowledgement is great, and we appreciate that.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Councillor Berger. So we do have the motion. Are you speaking to the motion, Councillor Pearson? About...
I won't speak to the motion because I think Councillor Berger's good.
Okay.
I'll speak to the commissioner.
Okay, so we'll clear this agenda then, and that is that council appoint Councillor Berger as the Economic Development Liaison to the Sooke Economic Development Group. Okay, I was going to leave the particular group off, but if you want it on, it doesn't matter to me. Leave it on? Okay, leave it on. Just because there's other things out there. But as those other things come out, I'll send them your way anyway. How's that? All things economic development, we will forward to Bev. All right. Call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. And Councillor Pearson.
I just want to thank you, Mr. Wilson, and your group for showing up tonight, because it's refreshing to hear a group of business people with enthusiasm, and you're coming here not asking for really very much, But you know, it's great to hear that people are working towards the economic development of something without a handout, and it's exciting because you guys show, I read all the things that you're doing, and the divided by 14. It's exciting, a very powerful group of people and great minds. So I expect good things to come with it, and associated with Councillor Berger, and maybe that's the first step, the embryonic steps towards getting an actual economic development officer here in Sooke or something like that. So I think it's really, really, really cool. So thank you very much for what you guys are all doing.
A comment? Yep.
Sir, very short. Thank you for that. One thing I want to say is that there's actually a meeting on Thursday night that the West Shore Chamber is putting on. And Sooke has no representation there, so I'm going to spend the money and go to the buffet and hang out with those guys. And I really think that one of the problems that I've identified and that we've all talked about with Sooke being part of the CRD is we really don't get a lot of credibility. So things like that, if Councillor Berger could attend that sort of thing, that would be just marvelous. We could have someone from Sooke, not just some dude who's in the background of Sooke, but someone who's front and center, who's elected. We all choose civic duty, but you guys have made a much more public choice of it. So that sort of event, I think, is very important that we hear about, and that you guys get invitations to. We'll do our best. Thanks.
Yeah, if you can, just forward them. You can forward them actually just to info@sooke.ca, anything like that. In that way, or channel them to Councillor Berger.
It's a recommendation. We recommend we should send that.
Yeah.
That's kind of helpful.
Okay, very good. Excellent. Okay, thank you. And we've called the question, so we're good. Okay, so next I'm moving into item 8, which is the public question and comment period. So this area is reserved for any matter on this evening's agenda, with the exception of the public hearings, as they have their own designated portions. So we cannot accept any more information about the public hearings, but anything else on the agenda. And should there be an item of interest, if you could let us know which one that is, and we just need your name, address for the record, and 2 minutes per speaker, please. Thank you. And welcome forward, please.
Hello, Derek Lewis, 5526 Sooke Road. I don't have an agenda in front of me, so I don't have the item number, but it will be thank you, Mr. Evans. It'll be item number 11.1.
Actually, Mr. Lurs, this item is not on tonight's agenda. When we adopted it, it's moved to a committee of the whole.
Okay, and then the other one would be for item 11.2. Is that still on the agenda?
Yep. Go ahead, please.
So for item 11.2, I see there's a acknowledgement to move some monies around for $350,000 for a fire tanker truck. My only question is, and I haven't sat in council chambers for a few years, but I know that I put in a lot of time with the previous council at Council Mayor's request to work on a 20-year capital plan with the fire chief at that time, which was never finally adopted. And I am worried that council is going to be moving forward making purchasing decisions without having a long-term 20-year capital plan on equipment and replacement. So I don't know if council can answer or if staff can answer if that 20-year plan has been done, or is it still going to be done, and will the public get access to that report when it is done? Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Blackhall, did you have another comment, or is just this particular one? Maybe I'll just turn to Mr. Blackhall. Are you able to answer that now, briefly, while Mr. Lurs is here?
Yes, Your Worship. We are working on a long-term capital plan. The chief and his staff have been working on that, so I'll let him speak to that. And this, the tender truck was already in the approved budget from last year, so we're not looking for a budget approval for that one, and it's actually gone down in estimated cost. We just want, well, I'll speak to it when we get to the tender report here, but I'll let the fire chief speak to the long-term plan.
Okay, if you wanted to speak with that, and then we'll get the more fulsome report when we get to that particular item, but just in response back to Mr. Lewis, please, Chief.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to the delegate. We have completed a long-term capital replacement plan. This item 11.1 today in the meeting is being pulled out of that plan in advance. I will be discussing why we've done it in advance due to the criticality of making sure that we are moving forward quickly with this apparatus because it's in dire needs of replacement, and that'll be explained further.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So we did touch on this at last week's Committee of the Whole, and that was when the budget was introduced, so it had to do with the timing, ordering the vehicle, and that sort of thing. But we can get into more detail of that when we hit that section.
Okay.
But just wanted to give you something.
Okay. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Lures. Do I have other members of the public on tonight's agenda? Anything except for the public hearings?
John Broman, 7779 Manitou Road. I'd like to speak on the rezoning application for West Coast Road and Tominny Road on the deal. I'm in favor of the application to go from C6, CD6 to R2, medium lot, and R3, small lot. I think it would be a good fit for the neighborhood. I'm right adjacent on the corner with the property, and I have a CD zone on our property. The only comment that I would have is the trees that are along West Coast Road. In the old days, they were planted trees, and they were planted by Fred Stange, and he used to own that property. They've grown out so bad. When we come down Tominny Road and at that junction, the trees are in need of either being taken right out or a major trim, because we got a blind corner there when we come out on the corner. Other than that, it looks like a 3-lot subdivision, I think. I'm not sure. Rob might be able to help me. Is there a future subdivision on into two on each of the? I think there's 3 lots showing.
You have to excuse me, Your Worship. I have to get the report out. I just don't have that in my mind.
We can get to that. We'll get that answered when the report comes up.
Excuse me, Your Honor. I've just been informed by staff there will be 3 lots created.
It is 3. Okay.
3. With a future subdividing them again, or no?
No.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm in favor of this subdivision. I think it's a good fit. The CD zone they had didn't seem to work, so that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Broman. Any other comments from members of the public this evening? Okay, so we'll carry on in this evening's agenda and move to item 10.1. And that is the Bylaw 691 for zoning amendment Bylaw 6882 West Coast Road, the one that Mr. Broman just spoke of. And I will turn this over to staff, please.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of Council. This evening, I have a rezoning application for 6882 West Coast Road. The applicant has applied to split rezone the property, which is 0.31 hectares at the corner of Tominny Road and West Coast Road. The change would be from a CD6 zone to basically half R3 and half R2. The owner plans to provide affordable housing and infill opportunities within walking distance to Sooke's town centre. The property is located within the sewer specified area and is connected to CRD water. Should this rezoning be approved, the CD6 zone would be removed from the zoning bylaw. There's a few photos just to illustrate the site. For the most part, there is an existing duplex, a strata duplex, as well as one residential single-family dwelling on site, and the rest is somewhat open vacant land. Here's an overview of the property. So the applicants provided a concept plan that includes a preliminary building scheme, lot layout, some parking configurations, and landscape concept. If both the rezoning application and future subdivision are approved, the proposed plan could create up to three R3 lots and 2 medium lot residential lots. So the picture here spells it out quite clearly, the blue being the R2 and the green being the R3. A total of 3 new lots then would be created at the subdivision phase. Adjacent zonings and land use include quite a mix. We have commercial, some R2, as well as the CD12, as Mr. Broman alluded to, and the R1. So there's a great variety within the neighborhood. The minimum lot size for subdivision is 600 square meters for the R2 and 350 meters for R3. Within the sewer specified area. Uses permitted include your typical bed and breakfast, boarding, lodging, home-based business, secondary suites or small suites, and a vacation accommodation unit. Both the proposed medium lot residential and small lot residential designations do permit a range of housing form that include the single-family dwelling, duplexes, and suites. Parking requirements. This is sort of a concept plan that the applicant has put forward, showing 2 per dwelling unit for single family and the duplex, and 1 per suite, and just a little bit of landscaping as a sample of things that could potentially come. They've also started to think about rainwater management on site and have come up with this design that would meet the requirements of Bylaw 404 for subdivision and development standards. They've also provided some conceptual residential single-family dwelling sketches, and so this would be one of them. And here's a summary of the R2 and R3 in case anyone has any questions. And basically this proposal does, it's seeking to ensure sustainable construction of single-family and multiple-family residential dwellings, reducing the sprawl, ensure future and existing residential development minimizes the impacts on municipal infrastructure, and supports a mixed-use development where infill is appropriate. The affordable housing policy has been a topic of discussion with the applicant, and they are willing to provide $2,000 towards the District of Sooke Affordable Housing Reserved Fund to help build seed funding for our addressing long-term needs of affordable housing within the district. And just a summary of the application. So you can see that 2 of the lots would be in over 350 square meters and 2 would be over the 600 square meters. Development Services is supportive of the rezoning application to permit the construction of single-family homes or duplexes on future new lots. And the applicant and their planning assistant, sorry Josh, are here to answer any questions if you have any this evening.
That's great. Thank you very much for the presentation there. So, Council, a pretty solid presentation. We've heard from Mr. Broman as well. But any questions that you have for staff? Councillor Pearson, please.
Well, I support the application because we all know how I feel about CD zones. So I'm seeing that you said there's a creation of 3 lots where there's 2 currently, right? Or is it there's going to be 3 new? But the map doesn't actually show that.
Should I answer?
So that's 1, 2.
Your Worship, there through to Councillor Pearson, there's 3 existing lots there on the property now.
Okay, so sorry. That okay. Now I was just looking at the map.
If you look at page 112 of the handout, it shows what's existing. So you start with 3 lots and you end up with 3 lots.
Okay, I'll move first and second reading.
Okay, that's first and second moved and seconded by Councillor Pearson and Councillor Casper. Did you have a question, Councillor Casper? Nope. Anything further from members of council this time? Okay, I'll call a question on that. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Second then, that a public hearing be scheduled for the zoning amendment bylaws 691 in accordance with section 466 of the Local Government Act.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor Berger. Any questions? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? That also is carried unanimously. And lastly, that the outdated covenant be removed from title and that any particulars remaining for future subdivision and development permit requires be addressed in a new section 219 covenant at the time of subdivision should the rezoning be approved. Moved by Councillor Pearson, seconded by Councillor Berger. Any discussion on the covenant? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I just want to shift something on the agenda, and this is my apologies in particular to both our fire chief and our fire staff that are here with us this evening. Following last week's tsunami alert, I had asked that they attend a council meeting just to give us a presentation on, a brief presentation on what occurred and just some thoughts that council could consider. I think the whole matter of emergency preparedness needs to be sort of discussed at an upcoming CAL meeting. I think that incident alerted me to more the fact that are we prepared should a major emergency hit our area, our region, and so forth. In terms of the tsunami alert, it's out there on national television. Yes, I slept through the whole thing. But that's also because I know that these matters are well taken care of by professionals that are trained in this response. And I know that if, when the time comes that a state of emergency needs to be declared, they would get in touch with me so that I could do such. Every mayor has a microchip in their neck, so they always know where to find us. Kidding, I think. Anyway, my point being is that I think it just resonated. There were many that said, how come the sirens didn't go off? How come we don't have sirens? We need something like the Wanda Fuca. If we had those sirens, they wouldn't have gone off because they didn't in the Wanda Fuca, nor did they on the Navy base. So that's where it's discussing what do we need to do. I think in earthquake preparedness, it's always if it's shaking so much that you can't stand, you need to get to higher ground because that is sort of your alert. You cannot wait for emergency response to evacuate you when there's that sort of a matter. And that's where it comes to each family, household, school, business, or whatever being prepared accordingly because we don't know when these events are going to hit. So anyway, I just thought it would be helpful because of all the information that came out in terms of what do we have, what do we need to do. It would just be good just to get a verbal presentation. And then I think our takeaway then is to have a larger conversation again on emergency preparedness. I was also asked, well, why weren't you there? Why were you down there? It's not the role of the elected officials to be down on the scene. I would only be in the way of the fire crew doing what they needed to do because they're the ones that are trained. It's not our place to be there. So anytime I would email or phone or text the chief, it's time of his taken away from doing what he needs to do, which is why I sort of fall that I'm on a need-to-know basis, and when I can sleep, I'm going to. So no problem admitting that. So I'll turn that over to the chief, please.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. Yes, I'm ready to provide a verbal update of what unfolded on the evening of the tsunami warning, or the early morning of the tsunami warning. I do want to talk a little bit about notification systems first, though, because that was the main reason for coming up to speak. And since that request, we've had quite a bit of positive and some interesting feedback coming back from how things unfolded that morning. To give you a little bit of recap, what happened on the 23rd is there's several different notification systems out there. One of them is the CRD's system, and we were demonstrated that system back in last year, about 5 months ago. And it is a subscriber-based type of system where you have to sign up, and I'm currently signed up trialing it. It did not notify me of anything during this incident because there is an administrative component to working with that system, and the same thing would apply emergency management officials having to respond to an EOC to send off a message and let subscribers know that there's something critical there. I was advised through Emergency Management BC's system. It is a telephone-based digital automated system. It gave me several alerts right away, which got me up and out of bed. And the first thing I did recall during this event is, yeah, there's an earthquake. It's up in Alaska. We do have many hours to react appropriately to this. The next step was through our Langford Dispatch was divide the duty officer in the fire department. That my role as the emergency program coordinator requires the emergency operations center being activated right away. We activated what's called a level 1 emergency operations center, and then we scaled it up to a level 2 operations center relatively quickly as we found out more validity of what's actually happening with the event. When we scale up an emergency operations center, there's different types of sections that are involved with an emergency operations center, and these components were enacted. Myself was functioning as the emergency operations center director. We also had a deputy director in place, a risk management officer, information officer that had 2 supporting personnel, and one of them was Captain Norris Jones in here that was helping with some media information, our fire service clerk, and another firefighter support member that was helping with the phones and more internet information. Assistant Chief Matt Barney that was in the audience here earlier that just left, he was the operations section chief, so he was responsible for coordinating a lot of the field activity that was out on the fire ground. We actually set up about 4 units, and that was our command and utility units to go out into areas where we had immediate concern, because as we were trying to set up the emergency operations center, we did have a few panicking residents that was the result of a fire alarm being pulled, and they were confused and needed some calming. And we did deal with at least a dozen people that were out in front of Fire Station 1 here. We made them feel warm and welcome and gave them information that was forthcoming. Some of the information we got from the Victoria Provincial Regional Emergency Operations Center was if there is a wave, it'll be coming to the Tofino area at 4:40. We use that as what we call a trigger point. If that was in fact to have a significant wave height coming into the north part of Vancouver Island, that's where the operations section chief and myself decided that this would be a time when we'd actually do more than patrolling the area and calming residents down that were already up and awake, to actually working with RCMP that were advised in advance, as well as any other agency that would be supporting an evacuation. From my experience from this, people talk to me, well, how come there weren't any sirens? I personally feel that sirens probably would have created more of havoc for us to deal with, and it would involve clogging up the roads and people being more confused than anything. The emergency plan that we had in place for dealing with a situation like this really gave us the indication that any location in the Sooke area that's below 4 meters or within 4 meters of sea level is the area of concern, and this was the areas of concern that where we had signs up in the past that was of some controversy. So this really meant us to focus on our units being in the Kaltassin area, the Whiff and Spit area, West Coast Road, and over in Cooper's Cove. During this process, as we were informing all the members that responded, we had a total of 27 in total, is that we actually need to deal with a car fire at the same time. So a little bit of a complication out on Sooke Road near Connie Road. There was a car fire, and we do think it was a result of people panicking and some strange things that were happening with people leaving on a bit of a whim with misinformation. So there is some other things coming down the pipe, and the one reason we didn't jump on the CRD notification system right away was right when we were introduced to it, we were aware of some initiatives coming through the province and actually through the federal government, and this is the National Cell Phone Alerting System. Before jumping the gun and paying money into a system that might be duplicating what that may come at no cost, we want to evaluate what these systems may provide. What I have learned so far about what's coming with the cell phone alerting system, that it'll be an intrusive system that's forced through LTE. So it's not a subscriber-based system, you'll just be pushed. And the push will come to any type of cell phone user that has a data plan. The concerns that we've addressed with this already is what type of information is that? Is it going to be information that's similar to probably what caused some of the premature panicking out there? With people that have subscribed to weather apps or Google Alerts. And this will be information that's probably tied into the U.S. Geological Survey that's done the initial type of earthquake information. There you're getting kind of information on a national and international level, but it doesn't define things that need to be done at the local level. So things that need to be done in Sooke have a different risk than may be done in Colwood or Esquimalt, where there's a Navy base. I think the operations section chief and I did some good calculative measures that made sense, that with the time constraints that we had to work with, and also that the information that came in at the wave height, it was best for us not to be banging on doors, waking people up that there's really a warning that's not impacting us. So our decision to not mass evacuate the people, I think was a good decision, which probably would have resulted in more complaints that we would be addressing right now of why did you evacuate us when it didn't need to be done. So it's almost a double-edged sword. You can't win on both cases, but that's part of emergency management that we trained in and we're trying to deal with. Some of the things that we did learn about already has to do with some debriefing that's coming up. We do have a debriefing with Emergency Management BC and the CRD happening this Thursday. And we're also doing our own debriefing with the Sooke Emergency Program on the 8th. Speaking with our ESS director, we are planning to do our own kind of open house here in Council Chambers on February 20th. Another type of information session that we did do in the fall as well, which wasn't very well attended, which had a lot of information on what to do with earthquakes and tsunamis. So part of the frustrations of trying to do things in advance, and you get the message out, we probably expect better, participation in information system now due to the confusion that's out there. Some of the concerns that we have as a group in the emergency program really has to do with sort of the hyper notification in today's world. That has to do with the internet, the considerable amount of misinformation that may be coming out of there through non-credible resources, not listening to information that's coming from the local authorities. How do we manage that? How do we deal with that? And one of the things we're looking to address immediately is how can we get in front of that quicker? Because there is a lag time, a latency from responding from that notification, getting an EOC activated, and that's where the havoc tended to happen. Trying to set up an EOC and you're dealing with people that got information that we're not even aware of, or they got it from the same sources that we got. So we're looking at, trying to deal with the method of getting early information up online on our websites and our actual pages, dedicating a new Sooke Emergency social media program page to help out with some of the ones that aren't affiliated with us out there. We discovered that there's like a Sooke Emergency page that has nothing to do with local government, but it's trying to do something good, but it could cause some confusion out there because it's not managed by emergency professionals. All in all, with all this, I think it's really important for our residents to know that boots on the ground is critical, and if there was an evacuation necessary, we would have been there. You would have heard us. We'd been waking people up. We would have been doing the tactical evacuation. You would have been advised to yourself, Mayor, Your Worship, to be coming into the EOC. If we had time, we'd be dealing with a state of emergency, a declaration there that's signed in advance, and preparing with more staff to be coming in. This de-escalated as quickly as it escalated up. So within 2 to 3 hours, it was already on the decline, and we ended up closing the Emergency Operations Center around 5 o'clock. So it was at the point where it was very operational, and our first initial activation in a long time here, I would say, was very successful with the turnout we had, because we did have 27 volunteers out there working with us, supporting the residents, supporting the community, and dealing with multiple incidents at the same time. So in summary, look forward to some information sessions coming up, and I'm happy to take any more questions, and happy to have more residents coming into the fire station, gathering more information. Last week, it's been a good experience for all of us.
Great. Thank you very much, Chief, and please pass on my thanks to both the Assistant Chief, the Captain, and all the volunteers as well. So you mentioned that on February 20th would be the information night, and that would be held here in the chambers?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Do you have a time confirmed yet?
It isn't official yet, but it'll likely be around 7:30, we're thinking.
Okay,
And
so in the evening, though?
That's correct. And
Okay.
we're going to put some information out there here soon on as far as advertising what that would be.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Any, Councillor Casper?
Yes, thank you very much, Chief. I have a suggestion that there's been some pretty extensive work on wave modeling that has been directly related to Capital Region, Southern Vancouver Island, our community, etc., in the event of an earthquake and direction of the waves. So I think that information would be very helpful because they actually showed wave heights and what may happen in the Sooke Basin. And so, it would help, lower the fear level because there's a lot of speculation out there and experts have done considerable modeling in the event of a tsunami. So I think that's critical that information be available or somebody from that agency is there to assist us. Thanks.
I would like, once you have more information on the federal line that's coming out and your comments on the CRD one, for us to have sort of a presentation, preferably at a committee of the whole, and then maybe it could include, because I remember seeing that wave modeling at some point since I've been on council, and just sort of what that would look like, and it would be good to sort of pull it all together, I think. Councillor Pearson?
Yes, through the chair. Thank you, Chief, for all the hard work that you did in the middle of the night. And again, it's a learning exercise because, everything we've learned is that it is coming. My questions were along the same as the mayor's and Councillor Casper, is that if we can get involved, because you say 4 meters, is that sort of the standard? Anything below 4 meters? And I don't remember in that wave modeling what it was. Is there a mechanism, I guess, once every so often to go to our local media outlets and advertise that, to say, here's where it is, because I instantly went on, some kind of web app and found out I'm 72 feet above sea level. So I don't know where, for me, I don't know if a 72 feet is safe or not. But I mean, I think that communication piece is good. So, and I went on the the emergency site, the PEP or whatever they call that provincial site. So we're in area D, is that correct? So what's the difference, I guess, from area D? Is there different warnings for all of those areas as they come down the coast? Or depending on where the earthquake is, I guess maybe that's kind of what I was thinking. I know it's sort of a lot of questions.
Through your worship to Councillor Pearson, my understanding of these different areas are probably part of EMBC's overall system, so they can at least target certain areas where one perhaps would be in a warning state and the other would be in an alert state. It's just a method of creating divisions with the geography in BC.
So do we, and I guess so when is 4 meters, I guess that's the warning, or no, that's what did they call that one? I don't know what they call that one. I can't see my eyes. So when it's 4 meters, everybody who's below 4 meters, have we identified that in advance, I guess? You have, locally, but what about the actual people who live there?
Through your worship to Councillor Pearson, we found that information is already in our emergency management plan, and we pulled that out immediately. The operations section chief gave that guidance in the EOC. We know those areas, but informing all those residents would be the more challenging component. Our information sessions are really geared towards trying to get that information out when we do hold those sessions, like the one coming on the 20th. One thing we are working in the emergency program is to put more of an emphasis on what's called the Neighborhood Emergency Preparedness Program, and that has to do with pod captains is what they're called. And we have one trial that's been done in Sooke already, and we're working with another kind of trial coming up here in the Whiff and Spit area and with Estrada. And that would be a mechanism to help kind of deal with the chain of command process from an emergency operations center to residents out there, advising them that you are in a dangerous area. In an event of emergency, they would be helping advise residents that we're beginning an evacuation process.
Okay, so through the chair to you, thank you for that. And again, I'm thinking, and I'm just having ideas out loud, but I think there's areas that for me, there's people that live to the west, and there's, certain areas where our highway dips down, and if people are, they think they're evacuating, I think the whole process around evacuation should be upfront. I think we should have a public document somewhere that, that we actually go out once a year and advertise that, do you remember, and if there's an earthquake and a tsunami warning, you go up Kemp Lake Road, you don't drive, between there, or you go up Otter Point Road coming west. And I know that's not our residents in Sooke, but we also have some areas down by the basin that are between here and Cicino Store, as an example. So, we want people not to be commuting somewhere where the route itself is also at risk. So I think that once in a while we need to do that public advertising. So, it's just a comment. Thank you.
And just if I may, Councillor Pearson, that's where I think we need to have a larger conversation with this at a committee of the whole, and then maybe that can action out some items. What comes to mind for myself is that first off, you probably should walk or cycle if you can, instead of getting into a car and driving, so that the roadways are clear for emergency vehicles. If there was areas underwater, I know that I remember the first time a number of years ago when the tsunami hit and the earthquake hit Japan, and my sister-in-law was telling me I should evacuate, and I said I'm best off where I am, because I would enter into a hazard area to go somewhere else, and I don't even know where we're going. So we're better off at home because we're in a higher area. But I think that's the conversation, and then maybe from there, council can sort of action out. Maybe there's a dedicated web page that has some information on it. Again, a reminder, the CRD is great resources, how you can put your emergency kit together in, I think, 30 days or 30 weeks, like every item. Day one, you do this. Day two, you do that. You got to buy the bin first. It's a good place to start. But just to have that conversation, I think it deserves something more than just this kind of off-the-cuff conversation, but actually at a committee of the whole. So perhaps we could maybe have that after your February 20th meeting, see what the turnout is there, what kind of questions come from residents, what sort of materials are available. So maybe in March, if we can look to have something at that time, and then again talk about earthquake preparedness and the like, and what we need to do. And maybe we can put those signs back up. They're around somewhere, because we did have them up at one point. Councillor Berger.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for your presentation. I agree that I think that there was a lot of sort of misinformation that got people a bit more heightened, and I really appreciate the fact that you're working on developing a Sooke emergency page, as well as early information that will come directly from our district. I think that was the one thing that I heard from a lot of people that they were missing. They wanted actual Sooke information, so I think that'll be a great assistance. And then once we have confirmed time and date for February 20th, I think that would be fantastic to put on the website and try and get as many people as we can here, being that it's on people's minds right now. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so into the agenda, we're going to move to 10.2, which is bylaw number 692, zoning amendment bylaw for 6726 Eustace Road. And this would be our Legion. Turn this over to staff, please.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. We have a rezoning application this evening for 6726 Eustace Road. This is a rezoning to, from institutional P2 to general commercial C2. And the applicant is applied to rezone. It's a 0.81 acre property. The owner, which is the Royal Canadian Legion Sooke chapter, plans to permit the sale of alcohol on the premises to increase revenue that supports the organization, as well as various community groups. The property is located within the sewer specified area and connected to CRD water. Currently, the site is surrounded by, again, a mix of residential, multifamily, institutional, and some commercial zones. The Sooke Legion was formed in 1926 and has a long history of supporting veterans in the surrounding communities of Sooke. The Legion generally is used as a clubhouse where they serve food and alcoholic beverages that are for sale to members and guests in the lounge. They also provide hall rentals to members and guests in the community. The lot is presently built out with one existing structure and parking stalls for 43 vehicles. The C2 use, as you can see, provides a wide variety of uses. And so we'll be focusing on the pub use for this application. The existing building structure will not change at this time. Policy 4.8 of the parking requirements states that within the town center, the parking requirements may be reduced by 50%. And as the Legion presently has, I think it's 43 stalls, not 42, the maximum occupancy for this site would be 126 people, or 1 per 3 seats. So if they want to exceed that capacity, we may have to look at another parking configuration down the road. The applicant is required to meet the general requirements for landscaping, screening, parking, public safety, and pedestrian circulation as outlined by the district zoning bylaw. Little history on it. In 2017, the BC Liquor Control Licensing Board enabled service clubs to transition their liquor primary club license to a liquor primary license, allowing them access to a larger market. The new policy requires that clubs are in compliance with local zoning regulations, and thus the applicants have applied to rezone from P2 to C2. The new C2 zone would permit the pub use, allowing the Legion to sell to the general public. Presently, the alcohol sold in the Legion is for members and guests only, and as stated in the attached letter of intent in your package, the Legion also aims to support Sooke's local breweries under this new zone. The minimum lot size for subdivision purposes is 900 square meters within the sewer specified area. However, the Legion has no intention at this time of subdividing the property. The official community plan has objectives for the town center designation, which include encouraging the a town center that incorporates high quality public spaces and contributes to Sooke's history and sense of place, promoting a strong civic presence and high level of public amenity, ensuring future and existing development minimizes impact on municipal infrastructure and staffing, and require that all new and renovated developments include rainwater management techniques to exist with rainwater detention and treatment of runoff. Sorry, I don't know how that happened. Sorry, we're going to rezone to meet the pub, or to achieve a pub use. And Development Services is supportive of this application to permit the sale of alcohol on the premises to increase revenue that in turn supports the organization as well as a range of community groups within the district. The applicant is required to meet the general requirements of the zoning bylaw, which include parking, loading, screening, landscaping, as well as signage. And the applicant is here this evening if council members have any questions.
Great, thank you very much for the presentation. And I just have a question. Would this rezoning, would this impact the Legion's ability to get a permissive tax exemption?
Yes, Your Worship, it would be something that council would need to consider. The change, this modification in use would be part of the requirements that are meant to come forward annually as part of, even though it's a 10-year or whatever the years, we just changed that bylaw. They should still come forward and request council's continued support. So.
But they could still make that request. They would still be able to qualify for a permissive tax exemption.
Yes, Your Worship, it'd be up to the applicant to demonstrate that there's still a public benefit being provided. So
okay.
If they're able to enhance the services they're providing to the community, et cetera, from this extra revenue generation, then it it can still be granted full, or a council could choose to grant a portion. It's been done in various ways in different communities. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Pearson, please.
Yes, through the chair to, and I guess maybe the question is to our planning staff, and maybe it's better to the applicant. Is this the transition for legions across the region that they're all going through this? Can I ask them, the applicant? They'd have to come.
I'd like to invite the applicant forward, please. Yeah. Thank you for waiting.
Diligently.
And if you just turn on the microphone. Thank you very much.
I'm Jan Watson, president of the Sooke Legion. We're one of the first to put in an application for this, but there are many on the island. I think there's about 3 or 4 that are trying to do this. And basically what it's doing is allowing us to get the public in and having more revenue through our bar. We're not changing anything else of the Legion except for trying to get more revenue to keep us going. We're still going to be giving out the $40,000 to the public through our 50-50 and our meat draws. But it just allows more people to come in without having to sign the book, and it also allows us to advertise to the public. Right now, we've just been shut off from advertising.
And that came up with the Robbie Burns dinner.
Yes, it did.
Because that was an event that was in support of the Legion, but then that's where advertising to non-members.
We went from possible 108 people to where 50 showed up because we could not advertise. We can't even put advertising on our sign up front.
Okay. So it's to generate revenue for the reason. Really,
yes.
It's to find another means to do so. Okay. Any follow-up, Councillor Pearson?
No, it's been all over the news lately that other legions around our region have been struggling with the same revenue shortfall. So, okay, thank you.
Councillor Casper, please.
I'll move first and second reading.
Okay, moved first and second reading by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Berger.
Could I just do a follow-up?
Go ahead, please.
So would that permit, through you to the representative, would that permit then the Legion to do an advertisement for rental of space upstairs for any banquets or facilities?
We would be able to advertise that on our Facebook. We already do, saying that we've got rental space upstairs.
Right.
That's, we can still do that. But what we cannot do is advertise for an event, like our dances or anything that we ourselves put on in our lounge.
And serving liquor, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And we are also open to families coming in.
Right, okay. Thank you very much.
Great. No, that's great. Anything further from members of council? No. I'll call the question then. All those in favor of first and second reading? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Public hearing be scheduled in accordance with Section 466 by Councillor Casper and seconded by Councillor Pearson. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And we wish you luck, and we'll see you at the public hearing. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to 11.2, the 2018 capital project tenders. This matter came forward. It's a recommendation from our committee of the whole. And I'll turn this over to staff, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the report is on page 149. And as you mentioned, this came up at last Monday's meeting of the Committee of the Whole. There are 3 projects that staff would like to get underway on the tendering, just for time-sensitive reasons. First one being the first year of the 5-year road program. So that came forward to Council November 27th. There was a staff report regarding the 5-year road improvement program along with the consultant report. So this would be for the first year of that program, $700,000, and staff would have put together a list of priority roads based on the consultant's report and their own work as well. So that would allow staff then to meet the window of construction that is going to be difficult to secure some contractors for, so the sooner we could get going on it, the better. It doesn't involve, in this year, it doesn't involve any borrowing, so there's none of that. That would slow down the process. So that's the first project. The second one is the picture that's in front of you, fire department water tender vehicle. This was in the budget discussions from last year for the 2018 year, so it is already approved in the capital plan. We're just wanting council's approval to go ahead and actually issue the tender, because that obviously commits us down the process. The sooner we get going on this one, the better, because it takes a while to fabricate and procure this vehicle, and we would want it in place for the fire season. So. The other one is manhole repairs. We've got a capital budget approved within the sewer fund already for 2018. So it's not requesting approval for that. It's just approval again to issue the tender, because we are again going down a commitment once we do that. And that's so staff can repair the 10 manholes where there's known heavy infiltration. Once that's addressed, then we can engage the consultant to do the flow monitoring test, so we can actually get a really good idea of capacity in the system.
Recommendation has been moved as it's fully stated there by Councillor Casper and seconded by Councillor Pearson. No, I'm just glad to get these all underway. The roads, just getting the contractor secured. And then if you could remind me, Chief, how long will it take us to actually have this vehicle arrive in Sooke?
Your Worship, it can take anywhere from 5 to 10 months, depending on who the winner is in the tender process.
Okay.
Some of the outfits, depending on how much they have in their queue, can take upwards to 10 to 12 months. Some of the larger outfits I've seen fabricate a fire truck within 5 to 6 months.
Okay, so if you could just please keep us posted just as we approach the summer, it'd just be nice to know, because I know last year you had some calls in areas that didn't have water service, and so it's kind of important to note that. Councillor Casper, please.
Yeah, just through you to the Chief. Was there an opportunity from one of the suppliers? I know they've had a demo water truck, or I don't know what you call it. Is it a water tender, or as a promotion from different companies, and sometimes they offer that as a sale? Is that? Have you looked at that concept?
Through your worship to Councillor Casper, yes, I've looked at that concept, procuring fire trucks for the last decade. On occasion, you can do fine with a demo unit. In fact, our ladder truck is an example of a demo unit. I'm not aware of any water tenders right now that are of a demo unit that's available in the marketplace. A couple years ago, there was one in Alberta, but that one wouldn't suit our needs.
The other question was one just picking up from Mr. Lure's comment. I just wanted to see that his questions were answered, and it was just about, I think we covered off that this was a budgeted item for this year, but I think the other one was the longer-term fire equipment plan. Could you just refresh me on that, please? And
yes.
Any other, and then if I have missed anything that he had asked.
Yes, Your Worship. The Chief and his staff have been working on long-term apparatus plan, so that we will bring that forward at some point this year. It's also tied to the district's overall asset management planning, and there's a bit of a step that we need to go through first of having asset management policy, strategy, and then you do the detailed asset management plans after that. So if we're to follow the BC roadmap, which is a national kind of accepted roadmap, and to get some funding from FCM and everything, we're kind of wanting to follow that process first. So we will bring forward more of the overarching, and then you'll see the long-term plans come forward as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. Through you to staff, I just have a question on both sides. The first one with the proposed road work. In looking through the, gosh, now my mind's gone blank, the proposal that we've got from the consultant with respects to the roads, there's quite a few checked off for year one. Are those all what we're hoping to to achieve?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Berger, the Opus report that was prepared is raw data with regards to the conditions of our roads, and what we did in the report that came forward in a previous, I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but we put it forward previously. And what we did is we determined, the roads that require upgrading right now, and we isolated them by area. We didn't change the dynamics of the need, but what we did is we've taken it down to the next level, where we've actually identified the roads that are in the same need, but we've put them in a category of area. And if you look at the original report that was given to you back in a previous council meeting, and I can't remember the date of it now, there are several roads that are identified in the first year, several roads identified in the second year, and they are in areas. And the reason for this was, A, to capture all the roads that need doing now, capture them in a specific area, because the cost is reduced when you don't have to mobilize equipment and move them from area to area. So if you look at the report that was given, 2017 is an area, 2018 is an area, so on and so forth. And that's the reason why the roads may look a little bit different in category than they do in the Opus report.
Okay, thank you. My next question, through you to the Chief. Just looking at the slide that was up here, it said that the tender currently has 15,000 kilometers on it, which is a newer chassis, yet the tank is old. And I think the 9 years that I've been at this table, we've been patching and repairing that tank almost yearly. So I guess my question, through the Mayor to you, is could we just get a new tank if the chassis is still good and only has 15,000 kilometers?
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Berger. We did look into that as being an option, but due to the aging of the chassis already, the cost is really prohibitive to be putting another new tank on it. There's several issues with this water tender. It does have some safety concerns, and it doesn't suit a lot of our needs in the community. Now, it doesn't have some of the advanced safety features you would expect in a modern fire truck now. The chassis is 2002, and it's gone through several types of maintenance issues, and it was recommended a couple years ago that it needs to be replaced because of some extensive repair work that's been done on it. It was out of service for a couple weeks last year due to the ability to get replacement parts for it, and I do find that we end up having to do some improvising on this unit just to kind of keep it in service. It is a water tender, and a water tender is one of our most difficult apparatus to drive, especially for volunteers. It's one of the most unsafe units to drive due to the fact that it has a high center of gravity and there's water in it, and it's unstable when it's empty. And with the rusting of the baffles or the failure of the baffles inside the tank that's unknown, it can make it pretty unstable. And a lot of the incidents you see driving in the fire service predominantly has to do with volunteers driving water tenders, and that's why it's kind of critical and upfront that we're looking at this unit to be replaced. It's a snapshot of what you saw there in this picture here is part of the comprehensive apparatus replacement plan, and we'll be going through the whole fleet in detail and the full condition of all of them with a ranking system that we've used from other local governments, as well as asset management and the condition of them all. So come budget deliberations, you'll have a better understanding where the condition of our whole fleet is and where this one fits in as a priority up front.
Great. Anything else from members of council? Call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.3, RCMP accommodation costs. There's been a request for $5,500 for some workstations, I understand.
Yes, Your Worship. This one's on page 203. This is similar to the request we had a while back for a chair or chairs. This one, the detachment has just brought in a sergeant, so they've had to remodel a little bit to accommodate the extra staff. So they do need 2 workstations now for the constables, I believe, the corporal supervisors they are. So they've got one quote already that came in at and just under this area, so I think that's the amount that they would need to procure this, and there's room in the once, if we want to leave the budget as much as we can there, but it would transfer from operating contingency to there just to make sure it's got that money in it. So.
Okay. I understand this, and I have no problem with it. I just, in the time that I've sat here, like, rarely do we get these sorts of requests from the RCMP. Like, usually, I know that there's amounts that we fund when we've added additional police officers. It's just.
Yes, Your Worship. We do get billed on a quarterly basis from the headquarters for all the accommodation costs. Okay. It's just that it often takes a lot longer for them to procure going through their federal type Treasury Board approval process and everything. If it's easier to come from us, we're gonna end up paying for it anyway. If they just take a lot longer to get it, or we can get it now.
So either way, if they did that, we would still pay for it, and in the end anyway.
Correct.
It's just or traditionally has been done through the quarterly billings, and
yes.
That's why we haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. There's a report. Any further questions? Would someone like to move the motion? Resolution is moved by Councillor Pearson, seconded by Councillor Casper. So that is to do both the budget transfer and also the acquisition. Can that be together? Okay. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. The next is the sale of the surplus asset bids, Lot A logs. The logs. Okay. So we decided to put this out to expression of interest, and I guess we've had one come in for the alder that's sitting there. Oh my. Thoughts from members of council? Other ideas? Someone like to move the motion? Sell the logs?
I'll move the recommendation.
Move recommendation by Councillor Berger, seconded by Councillor Casper. Discussion. These funds will go into the grant program, is that correct? Okay.
Yes, Your Worship, that was decided at a couple of council meetings ago.
Right. The corporate officer.
Sorry, Your Worship. Actually, the former motion was that council is still to decide. So the logs were to be put out to tender once the funds were received. So that can be debated during council during budget to decide where to put it, or we can bring it forward for discussion with options at a future meeting.
Okay, so we'll deal with this one first then. This is basically the sale. Are you good with that, Councillor Berger? Or do you have a question?
Well, I'm just wondering if we can just add a friendly amendment to put in there where we'd like the funds to go, and I would like to add to my motion that it go into the community grant funding.
Okay, so an amendment proposed is that it go to the community grant program. Is there a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Casper is seconding that, so that's... Now, is the intent then to add to what is already allocated to the community grants? So, like, if we've allocated, I can't remember the amount, 65,000, then that would leave 66,503.99. Okay.
For this coming year, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll call the question on the amendment that it go to the community grant program. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Now we have the main motion as amended. Then, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay. Okay, sorry. Just Sooke Program of the Arts Committee proposed terms of reference. So we had asked that the terms of reference come forward, and the staff are now querying the actual terms of references. And for myself, it would be the 21s from 2015. Sorry. Sorry, just taking a moment here. It's the one. Pardon me. Okay, I'm focusing. It'll be the terms of references that were adopted in 2009, and then they were amended in 2015. And unless council has any other comments, I think there were two, and there's also the proposed that was 2016. Is that correct, Ms. Machado?
Yes, that's correct, Your Worship. The then existing SPA committee had reviewed the existing terms of reference, put forward the recommendation to council in, I believe it was April 2016. Council referred it to staff for a report, but before the report could come back, the committee was dissolved. So those proposed terms of reference are included for council's consideration.
Oh, I see. Okay, so this then actually came from that particular committee. I was thinking more of the other sort of arts and beauty, like when we had the 3-committee structure proposed in early 2016 that didn't have full council support. So I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't what we were actually putting forward. Have you received any feedback from Councillor Parkinson on the terms
No,
of
I
reference? Okay. Okay, so in which case, the group that sat actually came up with the amended ones. Thoughts from other members of council? Councillor Casper?
So I just want to get it through to you from staff that the committee would make some recommendations, and those recommendations would come back to council when they have contemplated making expenditures out of that fund? Because that's what's been done in the past. Okay.
Yeah.
So they don't have direct spending authority, correct? Okay. All right.
No.
Do you need motion?
Yep, so then we need to just confirm the terms of reference. So in which case then?
Sorry, if I may, Your Worship, the second motion there, I believe, is what council is after, to repeal the existing terms of reference and adopt the proposed terms of reference that was put forward by the last committee in 2016.
Okay, so then it would be the second one then, and that is that council repeal the existing and adopt the proposed. Okay? Would someone like to move that motion then? Okay. Councillor Pearson?
I'll make the motion to repeal the existing terms of reference and adopt the proposal terms of reference.
Okay, moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor Berger. Okay? And good. Any further discussion then? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. And then in terms of membership then, some of it is already set out. Sooke Arts Council, Sooke Region Historical Society. Optional here then would be C-Park, potentially, council member, and up to 5 community members. So in this case then we would need to direct staff to advertise. Okay.
Yes, Your Worship, and we do have the other committee that we were holding on to. We figured this one would be coming forward tonight, so we will put that ad out this week for the development
and
the SPA committee.
Okay, so we can put that out and put that on the website then. And on matters like this, with the advertising, we had stated before that any statutory advertising be sort of what were legislative required, but then as these types of items, that it's at council's direction to determine where these advertisements are to be placed. So just looking to staff, or pardon me, to council then for this ad, we just need to direct staff on the location then, and I'm wondering if you would consider a motion then that these ads to get the outreach then go in both the Sooke Mirror and the Sooke Pocket News.
I'll make the motion.
That's moved by Councillor Casper and seconded by Councillor Pearson. Discussion, Councillor Casper?
Yeah, and I, would also suggest that we get a Facebook ad or some other type of way of getting the information out, because there may be some other groups and organizations that have sites that may want to pick up on it, that's all. It's just a suggestion. So
Okay.
it goes out this way?
Yeah, and we'll tweet it and have some, maybe we can do like a little media release. Because then that's always a nice way to push out some messaging if we could do that. Direct staff to place the ad for committee members in the Sooke Pocket News and the Sooke Mirror, and to draft a media release. And then media release. Perfect. Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Are you good with the amendment that I added about the media release? The mover and the seconder? That's good? Okay. Call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. So we'll get those both underway. That's great. Okay, 11.6. Last year with the eclipse, actually, that led to the escaped farm salmon, council had directed staff to bring forward a resolution to the AVICC. It was a bit late for UBCM because of the cutoffs, but we are in time for the AVICC, so this is one here that staff had drafted, as you see it. So just looking to council now to see if you would like this to move forward to the AVICC. It'll be in Victoria this year.
I'll move the recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Pearson then, and seconded by Councillor Berger. So in this case, the way the process works is if it passes at the AVICC, it automatically will move on to the UBCM. Is everyone going to AVICC? Yeah? It's in Victoria. Okay, just as a sponsor, this is going to likely raise debate at the AVICC because right away last year, UBCM, you may recall, a referral motion came in automatically that took the one from Victoria off the floor, and that came from other communities that do have farmed and want to see. So it'll be just it's something that I think as the sponsoring community that we need to just have some opening comments for, some lines just to be prepared for that particular debate. So just something to keep in mind. At this point, I am planning to be at AVICC, but also have vacation plans, so I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen. Councillor Berger.
Yes, thank you. I just was rereading the resolution to go forward, and I mean, it can stay the way it is. I'm just feeling like maybe it's based on the information that we've received from members in our public as well as our fishing community. Lots of them would, I think, like this to be stronger and to, ask the province to stop fish farming in our ocean. And we've heard a delegation that came forward from a bunch of fishermen here a few months back, and their standpoint was that all fish farms should be done on land because of the risk that there is, and it's a huge risk as far as disease and escaping and destroying habitats. And we've all seen the video that was shared. I think we've all seen the video that was shared with all of the, blood and effluent being pumped out into the ocean. So, I mean, in reading it again, I'm still feeling like I would support something stronger. So I just wanted to ask the table how you guys felt about that.
Do you have some recommendations for changes to the language? I think that's part of it, is getting the language. I know that the Minister of Environment, I think, is currently working, or Minister of Agriculture is working on something that right now, but I don't want to say too much about it because I'm not entirely sure exactly. I just saw a headline, so I don't have all my facts.
Well, in reading, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead. No.
And just reading the last, therefore it be resolved that AVICC and UBCM urge the province of British Columbia to enact legislation that protects British Columbia's wild salmon stock from the negative impacts of commercial salmon farms. I'll look to Councillor Pearson too, because I know that you were quite active in the conversation that we had at council here. Again, I would support going that next step, and maybe if we added language for negative impacts of commercial salmon farming, and then I don't know the exact language. I'm being pointed to look here. Let's see.
Well, I can add in that if you look at Victoria's resolution, theirs says, therefore be resolved that the province of BC decline any further permits for open net aquaculture and phase out existing open net operations, transitioning the industry to closed containment aquaculture with a just transition for affected workers and adequate consultation with Indigenous governments.
So in looking at, Ms. Machado is just putting something up on the board right now, touching on the end of it, commercial salmon farms up to and including banning open water fish farms. I would like to go one step further. I like the where we're headed here. I would like to bring a resolution forward to do exact that, to stop polluting our waters.
Okay, so you like the proposed amendment?
I'm not sure, and again, I'll ask Councillor Pearson, who's an avid fisherman and had discussions here.
Yep.
Does open water fish farms achieve the intent?
Well, through the chair to you, and for discussion is that really what we're talking about is containment, containment farms and controlling on land if need to be, but it's that open water fish farms that are causing the problem. So there's a number of things that are in there that are, I mean, we've already talked about invasive species, right? And I think that our motion from Sooke actually has generated a lot of discussion around the fishing community. However, I can support anything that gets this discussion going. I mean, up to and including banning open water fish farms, I think captures it. What the transition plan is for, with the senior levels of government, I mean, that's up to them. But I mean, for us, our small community, I think it's a statement, and I think it's appropriate. So,
okay.
I like the change to the including banning open water fish farms, up to and including.
Okay. So we'll go with that. Any further changes? Thank you, Councillor Berger, for capturing that and for the wordsmithing by staff. So I believe this has been moved and seconded. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Okay.
Sorry, just one quick follow-up. I believe it was Ryan Chamberlain that came forward as a representative of some of our fishing community people that spoke about this. So I don't mind reaching out to him in advance of going to AVSCC, so we have some knowledge behind it.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Okay, so correspondence block. We have correspondence here from January 8th to the 24th. Within this, there's some residents that live up Phillips Road past Sun River have submitted quite a briefing here, and they were looking for some information. This is the one on January the 15th from Ms. Linda Lucas, Denise Chuka, and Patty Homer. It's the first pieces here, and there is some information that they have submitted and are asking in here. If I just turn to the right page here. Yeah, I don't have the...
It's the first one if you click on the correspondence block.
Yeah, I'm just looking. So the next part here is that they're asking is about whether or not a bridge crossing has been explored, an alternative area. There's, in conversations, they had stated that we own some land on that wasn't identified in the original river crossing report, and was looking to see if that may be an option to look at a footbridge there. So that, I don't know what the page number is, but Councillor Berger, you may be aware, not that I want to single out where you live, but I think it's in that vicinity as part of the subdivision. I was told that there was a area of parkland that was dedicated to the district.
I'm not aware of that? I'm not aware of any up towards. I know up in behind where I live, there's a 10-acre parcel of Crown land.
Right.
But there's quite a bit of park dedication on the river.
Right, there is then.
On the Phillips side. I've seen it on a zoning map, but I've never
Okay.
looked farther. But I know on Phillips Road, our zoning maps do show some parkland, but it's on Sooke River.
It is on Sooke River, because I think that's where they were looking to see if that would be a potential place to have a pedestrian bridge crossing.
It would just take you over to Sooke River Road.
Yeah, but it would be like another alternate bridge location. Does that?
I will.
And I wasn't
have it on
aware
there.
that we had land there.
I don't know if it's owned by the district, but it does show as parkland. So I'll just pull it up right now.
Okay.
You were.
Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor Casper.
I think I actually drove you up there to go look at the end of Phillips Road, and there is some right-of-way at the very end of Phillips Road, and I think that is perhaps the location of the old bridge many moons ago that burnt down.
But
if
this
I'm
one
not
is
mistaken.
closer though.
Closer,
It wasn't right at the end. It was. I think it had to do when that subdivision was. There was a park dedication there. So then it was the case of because then I looked in our Goose Crossing when we looked at potentially crossing the river and didn't see this as a site. But then it was because this came up after that actual plan had been created, so it wouldn't have been an option at the time.
Sorry, if I could just jump in. If you look at the map underneath your allotting here in the top corner, it shows a portion of Phillips Road up by the Sun River development, and it shows the Sun River Park, but then it shows the parkland goes up, and I'll go back to the zoning bylaw online, but I do have recollection of seeing something that goes a bit farther. But I have no idea if it's owned by the district.
Your Worship, if I may, the park dedication that maybe be referred to as the park dedication that was dealt with at the time of the Sun River Senior Center or Senior Subdivision, and it goes up now. It goes all the way to the top of the hill on Phillips Road, but it doesn't go any further than that. The only other area that I'm aware of that we have any kind of right-of-way is, as Councillor Casper alluded to, is the very end of Phillips Road, and I believe the old bridge that burnt down was just a little bit north of that. But I don't recall any other dialogue of crossings other than the footbridge that was looked at the end of, I believe, potentially at the end of Sewell Road several years ago.
Yeah, and it wasn't that one either. I was told that it was still further, it was still located further up than that. But I'm wondering, as we talk about emergency planning and the like, when we have that committee of the whole, it would be helpful maybe if we could have this particular piece of correspondence come back, because I think that's part of it. When you do have residents living in certain areas, what is the overall plan for those areas, and where would people move to, or where would they go?
If I may, Your Worship, I think there's no overall plan for another vehicular crossing at this point in time,
No.
nor anything was really being looked at. What we're
Good one.
What we're moving forward with is a study to look at the potential for a footbridge crossing down around Demamiel Creek, somewhere in the location, or possibly in the location of where we were looking at the rezoning tonight for John Phillips.
Okay.
But that is just a footbridge crossing, potentially.
Yeah, and I'm aware of that. I think just with these residents, we're wondering, like, as you move past Sun River and you're further up Phillips Road, is just if there was an incident, where would those residents move to? So that's where they had thought that there was a piece of park dedication way past Sun River on the river that could be used as a crossing over to Sooke River Road as an alternative for emergencies, but I just wasn't aware of where that was. Yeah, and just at the very end. Yeah.
Excuse me, Your Worship, right at the very end.
And that is just what's at the end.
There is a considerable amount of road right-of-way there, and during the summer months, you can pretty much walk across the river at that point if you really had to.
Right,
But
okay.
there was no, I'm not aware of anybody ever looking at any kind of crossing in that particular area.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think just as we have further conversations on emergency planning, we can talk about it further. Councillor Casper?
Yeah, sorry for the little accident here. There, actually, on our planning map, or zoning map, I see there's two actual right-of-way abutments right to the river along Phillips Road, and one's to the extreme north and one is, I guess, about 2/3 of the way up. So there is something there when you look at that. So just something that perhaps staff may want to pursue.
Okay, I'll follow up with staff. Mr. Blackhall?
Yes, Your Worship. Maybe on the night, the emergency open house night on the 20th, these folks could be invited to, and well, everyone's invited, but we may want to reach out directly to them and say it's happening, and then we could have some mapping available too, like we're trying to get up right now, but for that Phillips Road area. So just so the chief and his staff and the ESS people can discuss about that area. We did have an event this weekend in the South Phillips Road area, of course, with the wind and the trees down and all that.
That's
stuff.
right. Okay. So perhaps if staff could just follow up once you have the timing of that session planned, that would be great. Just in response to the correspondence that they said, because it does fall under emergencies. Okay. So any other questions on the correspondence? Otherwise, looking for a motion to receive, please. Okay, motion to receive by Councillor Pearson, seconded by Councillor Berger. All those in favor? Opposed, motion is carried. And then we have the AVICC resolution submission notice. That's just sort of outlining dates and the like.
Excuse me. Your Worship, it's there just as a reminder to Council, if anybody has any other motions that they wanted to put forward. The deadline for submission is February 14th, so those could be brought forward on February 13th for Council to adopt if there's any other issues you wanted to forward for consideration.
Okay, something to keep in mind then. Otherwise, if we could have a motion to receive, please.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Pearson, seconded by Councillor Berger. All those in favor? Opposed, motion is carried. And then also now we have the referral from the CRD for the regional growth strategy. As you know, this came through mediation, and Councillor Casper. Sorry, I don't have my microphone on. This is the regional growth strategy, and we had originally approved what was proposed, but then it was rejected, so then it went through the mediation process. Councillor Casper attended those sessions on our behalf. Thank you, Councillor Casper. And then this has now led to what we have here in front of us. So my understanding then is that if a municipality does not accept this, then it goes to binding arbitration, I believe. But for us, it's sort of in line with where we've been in previously. Councillor Casper?
I'll move the recommendation.
So move the recommendation, please. And a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Berger. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, motion is carried. That's to accept and advise. Verbal reports. Earlier, we recognized our new staff members. That was great. I just wanted to comment on the provincial announcement of the $10 million for Highway 14. And just to note that this is just the beginning. It's not a result of the study. I think these were things that needed to be done to the road sort of immediately. So we will still receive more on the study on what sort of the more medium and long-term outlook is for Highway 14 as it goes through that provincial process. But it's just glad that they're getting on with it, and they pretty much started work right away. So that's good to note, and obviously we'll be keeping a close eye on it as things unfold. Council, you may know from a previous session, our previous meeting, we do have an open house date scheduled in March, and I'd like to reach out to all of you because often we're going through the agenda so quickly that we don't often have the opportunity to fully share what's happening in our respective worlds, committees, appointments that we have. So maybe that's something that could be done in a more meaningful way at our actual mayor and council open house. So if you could give that some thought, there's a lot happening at Sea Park in particular, water issues and the like, and you could even talk about the resolution that we're bringing forward to AVICC, those sorts of things. But I think it's a good way to just sort of share what's happening. In terms of health services, you may know I'm on both the Primary Health Working Services Group. We also have a steering committee that's formed, and there is another process for provincial funding that we're looking to access. So there is a draft community health plan that's underway, and once it's available to be released, I'll be sharing that here. It's just going through that sort of approval process, but that's very exciting news for our community as well. So a lot happening. It's just with all the work, sometimes you don't often share what's going on. So any other comments from members of council at this point? Nope. Yes? No.
Yes, just one, and it was in our correspondence, and I attended the Wandafuka Water Commission. The application for to waive the BCC portion for the Knox Presbyterian Church was turned down because it's in contrary to their bylaw. So their bylaw works in a way that if they waive the fees, then it has to be charged over the entire district. It has to be recovered. So the entire CRD water system would have to charge the rates to recover those fees. So their current bylaw doesn't allow for that. So there is some discussion around of that being changed, and I think Councillor Casper was at the big water board meeting, so he maybe has a little bit to report about that.
Go ahead, Councillor Casper.
Yes, just to add to that, so at the Water Commission meeting I attended, Commission has agreed that we will receive a full report on the ramifications of that, and it may or may not lead to changes to the bylaw, but at the same token, the hands are tied of the Commission to make the changes.
Correct.
So there would have to be changes made. So there's going to be a staff report at the next full-blown water board meeting.
Okay. Yeah, just if it comes up for us locally is that the application couldn't go anywhere because it was in contrary to their existing bylaws. So no one on the commission could actually vote for it.
Got it.
Without changing the bylaws. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so then lastly, we don't have anything to rise and report on. I'll call for a motion to adjourn and to reconvene the in-camera portion. Moved by Councillor Berger and seconded by Councillor Casper. And oh my gosh, it's 9:30. Good job, everyone. That's amazing. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously.